How to become impossible to underestimate. Stoicism. Introduction. There is a dangerous mistake people make every day. They judge power by appearance. They assume the loudest person is the strongest. They believe the one who talks the most knows the most. They think confidence is measured by volume, status, or attention. But history tells a different story. The most dangerous people in any room are rarely the loudest. They do not need to announce their strength. They do not chase validation. They do not waste energy proving themselves. Instead, they move in silence. They observe. They learn. They prepare. And when the moment arrives, they reveal a level of capability that nobody saw coming. This is why the Stoics taught that true strength is often invisible. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he spent more time mastering himself than impressing others. He understood something that modern society has forgotten. The less you need recognition, the more powerful you become. Today, we will explore how to become impossible to underestimate. Not through intimidation. Not through arrogance. But through a level of self-mastery so deep that people cannot ignore it. And if you're ready to build the mindset of a truly unshakable person, subscribe to Focus and Conquer, where we explore Stoicism, discipline, mental toughness, and timeless wisdom for modern life. Because while most people chase attention, we are building something far more valuable. We are building character. Master silence. Imagine two young men entering the same workplace. The first spends every day talking about his ambitions. He tells everyone about his future success. He explains his plans in detail. He constantly reminds people how talented he is. The second says very little. He arrives early. He studies. He improves. He asks questions. He pays attention. Months pass. Then years. One day a leadership position becomes available. Everyone expects the loud man to get it. After all, he has been talking about it for years. But the promotion goes to the quiet man. Why? Because while one was advertising potential, the other was building it. The Stoics understood that words create an illusion of progress. Talking about greatness can feel similar to becoming great. But only one produces results. Many people underestimate those who remain silent because silence makes them uncomfortable. They want constant proof. Constant updates. Constant displays of confidence. But genuine confidence requires none of these things. When you know your value, you do not feel compelled to announce it. You simply continue growing. Silence creates mystery. Mystery creates respect. Respect creates influence. The next time you feel tempted to tell everyone your plans, pause. Ask yourself, would this energy be better spent working on the goal itself? The answer is almost always yes. The less people know about your next move, the more surprised they will be when it succeeds. Develop an unbreakable inner world. Most people are controlled by their environment. A compliment makes them happy. An insult ruins their day. A setback destroys their motivation. A rejection makes them question their worth. Their emotions rise and fall depending on circumstances. The Stoics saw this as a form of slavery. Because if your peace depends on external events, then your peace belongs to the world. And the world is unpredictable. There is a story about a merchant who lost nearly everything during a violent storm at sea. Years of effort vanished overnight. His friends expected him to collapse. Instead, he calmly began rebuilding. When asked how he remained so composed, he replied, "The storm took my possessions. It did not take my character." That is Stoicism. People become impossible to underestimate when their stability no longer depends on favorable conditions. Anyone can appear strong when life is easy. The true test comes when circumstances turn against you. Can you remain calm? Can you remain disciplined? Can you remain focused? Because every difficult moment is revealing who you truly are. And nothing commands respect like emotional control. The person who remains steady during chaos immediately stands apart from the crowd. Not because they are emotionless, but because they have learned that emotions should be experienced, not obeyed. Let your results speak. There is a reason lions do not spend their days convincing other animals that they are dangerous. Their presence is enough. In life, many people exhaust themselves trying to convince others of their value. They seek approval, recognition, validation, constant reassurance. But the strongest individuals operate differently. They focus on creating undeniable results. Consider the craftsman who spends years perfecting his skill. At first, nobody notices. Nobody applauds. Nobody cares. But eventually his work becomes impossible to ignore. His excellence speaks louder than any self-promotion ever could. The same principle applies to every area of life. Fitness, business, education, relationships, character. Stop chasing recognition. Start chasing mastery. Recognition eventually follows mastery. And even if it doesn't, mastery remains valuable. People often underestimate quiet consistency because it appears ordinary. But ordinary actions repeated every day create extraordinary outcomes. The individual who improves by just 1% daily eventually reaches a level that astonishes everyone around them. Not because of talent. Because of consistency. And consistency is one of the rarest forms of power in the modern world. So instead of asking how to impress people, ask yourself, what skill can I improve today? Then improve it. Again. And again. And again. Until your results become impossible to ignore. Become comfortable being overlooked. One of the greatest advantages in life is the ability to work without needing attention. Most people fear being overlooked. They want recognition immediately. They want people to notice their efforts. They want applause before they have earned achievement. The Stoics understood that this desire creates weakness. Because when your motivation depends on praise, your progress depends on other people. And that is a dangerous place to be. There is an old story of a sculptor who spent years carving a masterpiece. His workshop was hidden far from the city. Few people visited. Few people knew his name. Yet every day he worked with the same level of care and dedication. One day, a traveler discovered his work and was amazed. Why spend so much effort on details that nobody will ever see? He asked. The sculptor smiled. Because I will see them. That answer contains a powerful lesson. Character is what you do when nobody is watching. Discipline is what you do when nobody is praising you. Excellence is what you pursue when recognition is absent. Many people stop working the moment attention disappears. But the strongest individuals continue. And when success finally arrives, everyone assumes it happened suddenly. They never see the years of invisible effort that made it possible. If you can learn to work in obscurity without becoming discouraged, you gain a tremendous advantage. Because while others are chasing attention, you are building substance. And substance always outlasts attention. Master your reactions. A man walks through a crowded market. Someone insults him. Immediately, he becomes angry. His mood changes. His day is ruined. Hours later he is still replaying the moment in his mind. Now imagine another man experiencing the same insult. He hears the words. He acknowledges them. And then he keeps walking. His peace remains untouched. Who is stronger? The Stoics would argue that the second man possesses true power. Not because he cannot feel anger, but because he refuses to surrender control of himself. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing strength means controlling others. In reality, strength means controlling yourself. Anyone can react. Few can respond wisely. Every day, life will test you. Someone will criticize you. Someone will doubt you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will try to provoke you. The question is never what they do. The question is what you do next. When your emotions become predictable, people can manipulate you. When your reactions become disciplined, manipulation becomes impossible. This is why Stoicism places such importance on emotional mastery. The person who controls their reactions controls their life. And that kind of stability is incredibly rare. People may underestimate your silence. They may underestimate your patience. But eventually they realize something important. You cannot be controlled. And that realization changes everything. Stop seeking approval. Many people spend their entire lives trapped inside an invisible prison. The prison is not made of steel. It is made of opinions. Every decision is influenced by what others might think. Every action is filtered through the desire to be accepted. Every dream is adjusted to satisfy someone else's expectations. The result is a life that never truly belongs to them. There is a story about a father and son traveling with a donkey. As they walked, people criticized them for not riding it. So they climbed on. Soon another group criticized them for burdening the animal. So they got off. Later, people mocked them for carrying supplies instead of riding. No matter what they did, someone disapproved. Eventually the father laughed. "We cannot satisfy everyone," he said. And in that moment he discovered freedom. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. You can spend your life seeking approval. Or you can spend your life pursuing excellence. You cannot fully do both. The moment you stop needing everyone's approval, your confidence changes. Your decisions become clearer. Your purpose becomes stronger. Your energy becomes focused. People often underestimate individuals who no longer crave validation. Why? Because they cannot be pressured. They cannot be manipulated by praise. They cannot be controlled through criticism. Their direction comes from within. And a person guided by internal principles is far more powerful than one guided by external opinions. Make discipline your identity. Most people rely on motivation. The problem is motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you feel inspired. Other mornings you do not. If your success depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. The Stoics believed discipline was superior. Because discipline continues even when motivation disappears. Imagine two athletes preparing for an important competition. One trains only when he feels excited. The other trains regardless of how he feels. Months later, who performs better? The answer is obvious. The disciplined athlete develops an advantage that compounds over time. Life works exactly the same way. The people who become impossible to underestimate are not necessarily more talented. They are simply more consistent. They show up when others quit. They continue when others become discouraged. They endure when others seek comfort. Every day you choose discipline, you strengthen your identity. You begin seeing yourself differently. You no longer become someone who occasionally works hard. You become someone who works hard as a matter of principle. That shift changes everything. Because identity drives behavior. And behavior creates destiny. The world often overlooks disciplined people in the beginning. Their progress seems slow, unremarkable, ordinary. But years later, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. What looked ordinary was actually extraordinary consistency. And consistency always wins. The power of patience. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Everyone wants immediate results. Immediate success. Immediate recognition. Immediate rewards. The Stoics understood that impatience destroys potential. Nature itself teaches patience. The tallest tree in the forest began as a seed. It did not become powerful overnight. Its growth was slow, steady, almost invisible. Yet over time, it became impossible to move. Many people quit because they cannot see immediate progress. They judge success too early. They abandon opportunities before they have time to grow. But those who understand patience gain a tremendous advantage. Patience allows skills to develop. Patience allows wisdom to mature. Patience allows opportunities to reveal themselves. The strongest people are often underestimated because their growth is gradual. Others do not notice it happening. Then one day they look back and realize how far that person has come. Patience is not passive. Patience is disciplined persistence over a long period of time. And when combined with action, it becomes unstoppable. The person who can remain committed while others become frustrated will eventually achieve what others only talk about. Learn to think before others react. One of the reasons people are underestimated is because they spend more time observing than speaking. Most people react. Very few people think. When a problem appears, the average person panics. When criticism arrives, they become emotional. When an opportunity presents itself, they rush in without preparation. But the Stoic understands that reaction is often the enemy of wisdom. There is a story about a military commander whose army suddenly received news that an enemy force was approaching. The soldiers panicked. Some demanded retreat. Others demanded an immediate attack. Everyone wanted action. Yet the commander remained silent. He listened. He observed. He gathered information. Only after understanding the situation completely did he make his move. His decision saved thousands of lives. The lesson is simple. The person who reacts first is not always the strongest. Often, the strongest person is the one who remains calm long enough to see what others miss. In modern life, this principle is incredibly powerful. When everyone else is emotional, become thoughtful. When everyone else is rushing, become deliberate. When everyone else is reacting, become observant. People underestimate thinkers because thinking is invisible. They only see the results later. They see the successful business, the wise decision, the avoided disaster, the perfectly timed opportunity. What they never see are the countless hours of observation that made those outcomes possible. The Stoics understood that wisdom often looks like patience, and patience often looks like weakness to those who lack it. Do not be concerned when people underestimate your calmness. Your ability to think clearly is a greater advantage than they realize. Become friends with solitude. Most people fear being alone. Silence makes them uncomfortable. They constantly seek distractions. Notifications. Entertainment. Noise. Conversation. Anything that prevents them from being alone with their own thoughts. The Stoics saw solitude differently. They viewed it as a training ground. A place where character is strengthened. A place where wisdom is developed. Marcus Aurelius spent countless hours reflecting on his thoughts, weaknesses, and responsibilities. Even as emperor, he understood that the greatest battles were fought within. There is a story about a young man who desperately wanted success. He asked a wise teacher for guidance. The teacher told him to spend 1 week alone in a small cabin with no distractions. No music. No visitors. No entertainment. Only his thoughts. The first days felt unbearable. But gradually something changed. The young man began to understand himself. He discovered fears he had been avoiding. Dreams he had been neglecting. Excuses he had been repeating. When he returned, he was not the same person. His direction became clearer. His confidence became stronger. His mind became quieter. That is the power of solitude. People who cannot sit alone with themselves often become dependent on the world for validation. But people who learn to enjoy solitude develop an inner strength that cannot easily be shaken. The world may underestimate someone who spends time alone. But solitude often produces the strongest minds. Because while others are distracted, they are developing clarity. And clarity is power. Build a reputation for reliability. Talent impresses people. Reliability earns their trust. And trust is far more valuable. Think about the people you respect most. Are they always the most talented? Not necessarily. More often, they are the people who consistently do what they say they will do. When they make a commitment, they honor it. When they accept responsibility, they follow through. When challenges arise, they remain dependable. There was once a builder known throughout his town. He was not the fastest worker. He was not the most charismatic. Yet whenever an important project needed to be completed, people called him. Why? Because they trusted him. Year after year, he delivered quality work. His reputation became stronger than any advertisement. Eventually, his name alone became a symbol of reliability. The Stoics believed character is revealed through actions repeated over time. Not promises. Not intentions. Actions. When people know they can depend on you, your value increases dramatically. You become difficult to replace. Difficult to ignore. Difficult to underestimate. In a world full of inconsistency, reliability becomes a superpower. Be the person who follows through. Be the person who keeps their word. Be the person who remains steady when circumstances become difficult. The rewards may not arrive immediately, but over time, reliability builds a reputation that speaks louder than any introduction ever could. Turn pain into power. Life will hurt you. That is unavoidable. Never feel pressure to announce your value. Let your actions reveal it. Because the strongest confidence is the confidence that does not need to be displayed. Protect your self-respect at all costs. There is something more valuable than money. More valuable than popularity. More valuable than status. It is self-respect. Once self-respect is compromised, everything else begins to crumble. The Stoics understood that a person who loses self-respect will often tolerate things they should never accept. They will stay in situations that destroy their peace. They will chase people who do not value them. They will betray their own principles to gain approval. And in doing so, they slowly lose themselves. There is a story of a young warrior who desperately wanted acceptance from a powerful group. To earn their approval, he abandoned his values little by little. He laughed at things he knew were wrong. He remained silent when he should have spoken. He followed when he should have led. Eventually, he gained the group's approval. But when he looked in the mirror, he no longer recognized the man staring back at him. He had gained acceptance and lost himself. The Stoics would consider this a terrible trade, because self-respect is the foundation of inner peace. When you know you are living according to your principles, you walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. People sense it. And although they may not understand it, they respect it. The moment you stop compromising your values for temporary approval, you become much harder to underestimate. Because your identity is no longer for sale. Become emotionally untouchable. Imagine a mountain standing through centuries of storms. Rain falls. Winds roar. Lightning strikes. Yet the mountain remains. This is how the Stoics believed a person should develop emotionally. Not emotionless. Not cold. Not detached from humanity. But stable. Grounded. Difficult to shake. Most people live like leaves in the wind. Every criticism moves them. Every compliment controls them. Every setback changes their direction. Their emotional state depends entirely on external circumstances. The Stoics sought something different. They sought internal stability. There is a story about a merchant who lost a fortune during a market collapse. While everyone around him panicked, he remained calm. A friend asked how he could possibly be so composed. The merchant replied, "I prepared my mind for loss long before loss arrived." That is Stoic wisdom. When you understand that challenges are part of life, you stop being surprised by them. And when you stop being surprised by them, you respond with greater clarity. Emotionally untouchable people are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make decisions for them. They are not immune to disappointment. They simply refuse to stay trapped in it. This kind of emotional resilience commands respect. Because in a world full of emotional chaos, stability becomes extraordinary. Guard your energy. One of the biggest reasons people fail to reach their potential is because they give their energy away too easily. They argue with strangers. They obsess over criticism. They chase people who do not appreciate them. They spend hours worrying about things they cannot control. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted. The Stoics treated energy like a valuable resource. Because it is. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy. How you spend it determines the quality of your life. Imagine a king preparing for an important battle. Would he waste his strongest soldiers fighting meaningless skirmishes? Of course not. He would preserve his resources for what truly matters. You must do the same. Not every argument deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your response. Not every problem deserves your worry. Learning where not to invest your energy is one of the highest forms of wisdom. The people who become impossible to underestimate are often the people who stop wasting energy on distractions. They focus. They prioritize. They protect their peace. And because of that, they accomplish more while appearing to do less. Remember this. Your attention is your life. Where it goes, your future follows. Guard it carefully. Command respect without demanding it. Many people spend their lives trying to force respect. They demand it. Argue for it. Beg for it. Intimidate others into giving it. Yet genuine respect cannot be forced. It must be earned. There was once a teacher known throughout an entire region. He never raised his voice. Never demanded admiration. Never reminded people of his accomplishments. Yet everyone respected him. Why? Because his actions consistently reflected wisdom. His words carried weight because they matched his behavior. The Stoics believed respect grows naturally when character is strong. People watch what you do more than what you say. If your actions demonstrate integrity, discipline, and self-control, respect follows naturally. If not, no amount of demanding will create it. The most respected people often appear the least concerned about being respected. That is because they focus on becoming worthy of respect rather than chasing it. And that difference changes everything. When your character speaks for you, you no longer need to convince anyone of your value. Your presence does it for you. The final lesson: become the person nobody expected. Years from now, people will remember your results. Not your excuses. Not your intentions. Not your promises. Your results. The truth is that many of the people around you have already formed opinions about who you are. They think they know your limits. They think they know what you can achieve. They think they know how far you can go. Let them think that. The Stoics never wasted time trying to change opinions. They focused on changing themselves. Because when you transform yourself, opinions eventually change on their own. Imagine an acorn buried beneath the soil. To an observer, it appears insignificant. Small. Weak. Forgettable. But hidden inside is the potential for a mighty oak tree. The acorn does not argue with those who underestimate it. It simply grows. Year after year. Season after season. Storm after storm. Until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. You are no different. You do not need to convince the world of your potential. You need to develop it. You do not need to demand respect. You need to become worthy of it. You do not need to announce your strength. You need to build it. Quietly. Patiently. Relentlessly. And one day, the same people who underestimated you will wonder how they failed to see what you were becoming all along. Cinematic conclusion. The Stoics understood a truth that remains just as powerful today as it was thousands of years ago. Real power is rarely obvious. It is found in discipline when nobody is watching. In patience when others are rushing. In calmness when others are panicking. In character when others are pretending. The strongest people are often underestimated because their strength is internal. It cannot be measured by appearances. It cannot be measured by popularity. It cannot be measured by noise. It is measured by resilience, wisdom, self-control, and the ability to remain true to your principles regardless of circumstances. So stop trying to prove yourself to everyone. Stop seeking permission to become great. Stop waiting for validation before pursuing your purpose. Instead, focus on becoming stronger, wiser, calmer, more disciplined, more capable. Every single day. Because the goal is not to impress people. The goal is to become the kind of person whose presence speaks before they do. The kind of person whose character commands respect. The kind of person who remains steady while others lose themselves. The kind of person who quietly builds a life so powerful that underestimation becomes impossible. And if you're committed to that journey of self-mastery, discipline, mental toughness, and stoic wisdom, make sure you subscribe to Focus and Conquer. Because here, we don't chase attention. We build strength. We don't follow the crowd. We master ourselves. And remember, the world may underestimate you today. That is fine. Your job is not to change their opinion. Your job is to become the person they never saw coming. This is Focus and Conquer. And I'll see you in the next lesson.